Johnny, I've never been to Las Vegas. I was kind of afraid of it. I was afraid I might get involved with some. They called Jim Reeves the smoothest voice country music had ever heard. He was a man whose songs felt calm, comforting, and timeless. At the peak of his fame, when hit records were pouring out of Nashville and his future looked limitless, Jim boarded his small airplane, believing it would be a routine flight home. But he never made it. Somewhere in the dark, storm-filled skies, something went terribly wrong. For decades, his sudden death remained wrapped in mystery, leaving fans heartbroken and full of unanswered questions. Now, over 50 years later, the truth behind that tragic flight is finally coming into focus, revealing how a voice destined to last forever was silenced in a single devastating moment. Today on Royal Time of Hollywood, we look back at the life, the love, and the tragic final flight of gentleman Jim Reeves, the boy from Galloway. Jim Reeves was born James Travis Reeves on August 20th, 1923, near Galloway, Texas. He grew up in a quiet farming community, the youngest of 9 children. Life dealt him a hard hand early on when his father passed away before Jim was even a year old. Raised by his mother, Reeves learned responsibility and humility, qualities that would later define his gentlemanly persona. His love for music began by accident at age 5 when he heard a phonograph and was amazed that music could come from a small box. He taught himself to play an old guitar by listening to the radio, inspired by the emotional storytelling of Jimmie Rodgers. Interestingly, music wasn't his first choice. Jim was a gifted athlete and attended college on a baseball scholarship. However, an injury ended his sports dreams, pushing him toward his true destiny. Influenced by smooth pop singers like Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra, Jim developed a clean, relaxed vocal style that was unheard of in the rough-and-tumble world of 1940s country music. The rise of Gentleman Jim. Jim's professional journey was one of persistence. In the late 1940s, he worked as a disc jockey in Shreveport, Louisiana, performing under the name Jim Sonny Boy Reeves. At first, he tried to mimic the high-energy honky-tonk style popular at the time, but it didn't fit him. The turning point came in 1957 with the recording of He'll Have to Go. Built around a quiet, intimate vocal, Jim sang it as if he were whispering directly into the listener's ear. It was a massive crossover hit, reaching #1 on the country charts and soaring up the pop charts. Jim Reeves didn't just find success, he helped create the Nashville sound. He traded the Sonny Boy persona for a refined, sophisticated style that appealed to global audiences. He became a superstar not just in America, but in the UK, Europe, and South Africa. Hits like For Walls, Welcome to My World, and Am I Losing You made him a household name. In the studio, he was a perfectionist, demanding emotional honesty and clarity in every take. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to check out the other stories and shocking updates on our channel. We've covered many incredible celebrity journeys, tragic endings, and untold Hollywood secrets that you don't want to miss. Binge watch our previous videos to discover more surprising facts, emotional stories, and where your favorite stars are today. Your support helps us bring you more powerful content like this, so don't forget to explore, watch more, and stay tuned for the next video. A love built on loyalty. Jim and Mary. In an industry often defined by scandal, Jim's love life was remarkably steady. At the center of his world was Mary White Reeves. They met in the mid-1940s in Texas, long before the fame arrived. Mary wasn't drawn to a star. She was drawn to a calm, sincere man who was working various odd jobs to survive. They married in 1947. Mary always took pride in the fact that she married Jim Reeves when he was just Jim Reeves. Jim was intensely private and relied on Mary for everything, once stating, "I've never made a move in my life without first talking it over with Mary." They had no children, making their bond even tighter. While Jim toured the world, Mary maintained their home as a refuge from the spotlight. She was his confidant, his guide, and his fiercest protector. Jim once summed up his life simply, "I don't need much to be happy, just a home, peace of mind, and Mary." The tragic flight, July 31st, 1964. Flying wasn't just a hobby for Jim, It was a necessity to manage his exhausting schedule. On July 31st, 1964, Jim was piloting his Beechcraft Debonair from Batesville, Arkansas, back to Nashville. His business associate, Dean Manuel, was his only passenger. As they approached Nashville, the weather turned violent. Severe thunderstorms brought heavy rain and near-zero visibility. Jim was in contact with air traffic control, who warned him of the intensity of the storm. Despite the warnings, Jim continued his approach, likely trusting his experience to see him through the clouds. What happened next was a pilot's worst nightmare: spatial disorientation. In the heavy clouds and rain, without a clear horizon, the brain can no longer accurately perceive the plane's position. Investigators believe Jim lost his sense of altitude and direction. The plane descended rapidly and crashed into a wooded area in Brentwood, Tennessee. Both Jim and Dean were killed instantly. Jim was only 40 years old. The reason behind the mystery. For years, rumors swirled about the crash. Was it mechanical failure? Was it recklessness? 50 years of investigation have brought the truth into focus. It wasn't one single error, but a tragic convergence of factors. The storm, the cell Jim entered, was far more intense than typical summer rain. It was a localized supercell with extreme turbulence. Spatial disorientation. This is the silent killer of general aviation. Even the most skilled pilots can succumb to it when they lose visual reference. Confidence versus nature. Jim was a licensed, competent pilot, but his familiarity with the route may have led him to underestimate the volatility of that specific storm system. There was no evidence of foul play or mechanical breakdown. It was a tragic accident that took one of music's greatest voices far too soon. A legacy of silence. The news shattered the music world. For Mary Reeves, the loss was absolute. "One minute Jim was alive, and the next minute my life was over," she said. Mary never remarried. She spent the rest of her life as the sole guardian of his memory, ensuring his music was treated with the respect it deserved. Because they had no children, Mary felt a deep responsibility to keep Jim's voice alive. She managed his estate with an iron will, and even today, Jim Reeves' music continues to find new fans. Jim Reeves was a man of quiet power. He brought a sense of dignity to country music that changed the genre forever. Though his flight ended in darkness, his music remains a light for millions around the world. Do you remember where you were when you heard the news about Gentleman Jim? Which of his songs is your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this tribute moving, please like, subscribe to Royal Time of Hollywood, and hit the bell notification so you never miss our deep dives into the legends of the past.